Let me start with you, Dele. I mean, this was a country that was won for the first 6 years post-independence. Why was it so brutal? Why did they seem to hate each other so much?
Well, it was never really one, because these were ancient nations, as different as the Scots are to the English and to the Welsh. They became one politically because the British colonial authorities, in the process of constructing empire, put them in the same sack. So that's the reality. Civil war almost is a misnomer because these were different peoples.
Timothy, I think we should be talking about progress now, but has there been progress? Have lessons been learned from that war, from that conflict?
Well, it's interesting that actually we asking the question whether lessons have been learned. It's really a very big question for me to sort of answer, because there is no evidence on the ground that the effect of the war or the lessons that people normally learn from war has been learned. And the evidence is there. Otherwise, why would a group of people, even generations that weren't there when at the time of the war? I was a Biafran war child, so I would know. But to imagine that people who weren't born at that time begin to sort of, if you like, agitate and ask questions.
But you say that, the country, Nigeria, has managed to remain one, or has it?
It depends on whose point of view we're looking at. The word managed, it's probably the way to classify it. But if you then go within the nations that make up Nigeria, the central question will be, how does each nation fare about the after effect of the war? If you look at the Igbos or even the Yorubas, or look at the ethnic minorities or the minority groups, and you ask yourself, what's going on now? How do they feel about it? Did they feel that the lessons have been learned from the war, or are there more unanswered questions? My view, to some extent, is that it seems to me that we haven't learned from it. Otherwise, we will not be in the situation where we are now, where every nation in Nigeria is almost now, if you like, agitating for some kind of separation.
Timothy says the country hasn't learned any lessons from this very brutal war. Well, let me just come back. You know the history leading up to this agitation for secession. Now we can see the same agitations happening again, through MASOB, through IPOB, who are now agitating for a separate country. Was it the same thing that happened back in '66?
Well, you see, 66 was all of a sudden. As I said, it was a defensive move. What's happening now, the theory was that there was supposed to be no victor, no vanquished. And there was supposed to be reconciliation and reconstruction. The reality is that the lessons have not been learned. Those lives have all been wasted, because we're now back again, full circle, back to a new generation shouting for Biafra. And they're not alone. There are other areas, other ethnic groups within the country who are all tired of the narrative and tired of the experience of Nigeria. You see, and the main lesson has not been learned by the victors, in inverted commas, because there's a level of impunity that's taking place now like never before.